Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic that I learned about a long time ago, and it's going to be about Gulika, the son of Shani. Now, you'll find a lot of videos out there just posted recently in the last couple of years. But the information is not according to Sage Parashara, which I'm wondering why. But that's besides the point. I think it's important that you have accurate information. So I decided to make this video because Gulika is an important shadow planet, so to speak. It can cause a lot of hindrances. Some people and some astrologers don't take it into consideration, but I think it's something to be looked at in your chart. And then you can decide whether it's having an effect on you or not. But I found it very useful when I learned about it about 6 years ago. So, to begin this, I'm going to start off with Shani. And Shani or Saturn is the son of the sun. When the sun had realized that his children would rule the world, he wanted to destroy them. But as you all know, Brihaspati or Jupiter is associated with survival. So when Jupiter was born, his mother provided him with some protection so that Shani could not reach him. Shani is known to be a very chilly, secretive planet that has a lot to do with bringing karma. And in order to learn about this teacher in our birth charts, this planet that gives energy to us, I thought it was important to go over the history of Shani and how Shani had Gulika, his son. So, it's a long time ago legend in the Ramayan. Ravana, he was the god of the Asuras. He was the Sri Lankan king, and he's known for kidnapping Sita and a lot of really inauspicious deeds this one did. Well, Ravana captured all of the 9 planets in Vedic astrology. And Ravana was known as being a good astrologer because he had the planets at his birth were known to be in certain exaltations. And so he was known to be a really good astrologer. So he knew what to do somewhat. So he wanted to make sure that his son, Ravana, was about to have a son. And so the son's name was Indrajit. And so in order for Indrajit to have an auspicious birth, he wanted to make sure all the planets were going to be doing the right thing, so to speak. So he captured all these planets and wanted them to sit in the 11th house. Ravana also wanted to make sure that these grahas were facing down so that there would be no possibility of any aspect or anything bad. So he captured the planets, forced them to all look down, and then Sage Narada came because he had heard about the situations and wanted to help the devas and the grahas. So he knew about a thing called the Shani Drishti. And the Shani Drishti is when it's a deadly position. It's supposed to be when Shani will cast an evil eye and deeply trouble somebody's life. So Shani could have used this drishti to escape with all the other planets. But as I said, Ravan was making them face the floor, so Shani couldn't look at him. So in order to get this gaze on Ravan, Sage Narada had told Ravana, he said, well, why don't you, have them look up? And he basically was trying to, get Ravan to believe that if these planets were having some sort of stamp on the chest, so to speak, and not on their backs, then number one, it wouldn't humiliate the grahas and they would give more auspicious results. So Narada was putting in this, this whole idea in Ravan so that Shani would be able to give him that gaze, the Shani Drishti. So Ravan got all the planets to sit up. And then as soon as that happened, Shani's gaze went on Ravan, and that's when his life began to unravel. Well, Ravana eventually found out what happened. And he got a hold of Shani, locked him in a cage that had no openings, so no one could ever see the face of Shani and ever get afflicted by the Shani Drishti. But after some years, Hanuman flew over Lanka as Lord Ram's messenger to Sita. And Hanuman heard the voice of Shani weeping inside the cage. Hanuman broke open that prison and rescued Shani. However, during the act, the Shani Drishti fell upon Hanuman. Shani, though, was so thankful to Hanuman for rescuing him, but also bound by his virtues to infuse hardships of the Sati Sati, which is the 7 years that when Saturn is going over your ascendant, well, it goes one house behind your ascendant, then on the ascendant, and then one house next to you. It actually goes over your moon. So depending on where your moon is, that's where that 7 years of Shani will hit, or the Shani dosha. Hanuman was understanding, though, and wanted to know what kind of sufferings he'd have to go through. And Shani explained to Hanuman that he'll have to leave his home and go about suffering. And Hanuman was okay with Shani's residing, during the Sadi Sadi. And he was devoid of family. And Shani took refuge in Hanuman's head. But Hanuman kept fighting demons. But while he was fighting, Shani was getting hurt by all this because he was on the head of Hanuman. So he decided to go off his head. And then he blessed Hanuman, saying that he is the only one who cannot be troubled by Sadi Sadi or the Shani dosha. And for people who study astrology a lot, Hanuman's moon was in Mula Nakshatra. And and Shani asked Hanuman to make a wish for his brave conduct of saving him from Ravan. And Hanuman requested Shani not to trouble or cast the evil eye on his devotees. So, as I've said in previous videos, it's really important to, if you're having any issues with your chart, anything, appease Lord Hanuman, and it'll help. Basically the story is that Shani, when during the time when he was told to, when Ravan said, everybody get into the 11th house and put your head down, Shani was going, he tried to keep one foot in the 12th house and keep his gaze. And when Ravan found this out, he ended up cutting off his foot. And so that's why Shani is considered to be the slow-moving planet. And that foot of Shani, it actually became a sun, which is called Gulika. So it's said that when Gulika is in your chart, wherever it is in your chart, it is going to behave a lot like Shani. It's going to delay things, and it's going to make you work for things a little bit harder than normal. So, and there's a lot of videos out there that tell you how to determine, the time of, how you can calculate the time of Gulika, but there's softwares that you could put your birth details in and it'll give it to you right away. But basically, to make it a really long story short, because to be honest with you, I only found a few videos out there, at least in English, about Gulika, and only one of the videos had the right, and most of them were missing like some very important information that I will discuss in here. About the effects of Gulika. But, I mean, to make a really long story short, but most of the people that did have videos about it, they were accurate about how to calculate the Gulika. So that part of the video is accurate. But the rest of it, there's just a little bit of inconsistencies. So, basically, you divide the day or night into equal parts. 8 equal parts. The 8th part doesn't have any planet, but the other 7 grahas, they're going to be in one section of the part, and it starts with the sun and then goes on and on and But like I said, there's a lot of softwares that you can use and you can calculate your Gulika. So let us move to, and another thing I did want to mention with the whole idea of Gulika is that there's some parts of India where there's a legend, and it's called, there's a story and it's called Kantara, and there's a movie that's called that too. But instead of the name, so it's basically about two different, one of them's a boar and one of them is a rock. And basically these two things got banished, but were loved at the same time. And one of the names is Panjurli, and the other one is Gulaga, not Gulika, but Gulaga. So it's such a similar name, and the story is kind of the same. If you want to know more about the Panjurli, they have a lot of different references that you can look up on that, and movies and traditions. But the story of Gulaga, it involves Shiva and Parvati. So Gulaga was born from a stone, and the stone was found by Parvati in a pile of ash. And when Shiva threw it into the water, it gave birth to Gulaga. And Gulaga was sent to Vishnu to serve him, but due to his destructive nature, Vishnu cursed him to the earth. So, and basically Gulaga was on the land and basically, did a lot of penance to try to not be inauspicious. But anyway, it's just, it just, the name sounded similar, and kind of the going from inauspicious and destructive and, getting banished, and I don't know, I just thought I'd bring it up. But anyway, back to Gulika. So Gulika, so Sage Parashara said that Gulika is going to be inauspicious if it's in conjunction with planets and if it's in certain houses. So we're going to go over all that. And so now a few of these houses, and this is where I found the most discrepancies in the videos out there, and so I just thought I'd make this because people need to know the truth. And so basically, if Gulika is in the first house, the native will be afflicted by diseases, be lustful, sinful, crafty, wicked, and very miserable. It could even cause people who can't think or talk. They're kind of in a comatose state also. And if Gulika is in the second house, the native will be unsightly in appearance, miserable, mean, given to vices, shameless, and penniless. If Gulika is in the third, now this is one of the houses that Gulika won't give bad results. The native will be charming in appearance, will head a village, be fond of virtuous men, and be honored by the king. And if Gulika is in the fourth house, the native will be sickly, devoid of happiness, sinful, afflicted due to windy and bilious excesses. And bilious is when your liver is fatty, and or it's having excretions. It's excreting things. And if Gulika is in the fifth house, the native will be praiseworthy, or will not be praiseworthy, be poor, short-lived, spiteful, mean, be an Enoch, and be subdued by his wife, and be a heterodox. And a heterodox is somebody who is like completely off. Like, I mean, they're just, there was something on the news about, there was a guy, I mean, there's crazy stuff going on every day these days, but there was a guy who was like hiking in Germany from America. And these other two girls that were from America happened to be hiking on the same day. And this guy like raped one of the girls and then threw them both off of like the mountain, and one of them died. I mean, it's just crazy. And then like, I mean, that's heterodox, just completely nuts for no reason. No reason at all. Just a nutcase. And then if Gulika is in the 6th house, the native will be devoid of enemies. So this is another good placement for Gulika. The native will be devoid of enemies, be strong-bodied, splendorous, liked by his wife, enthusiastic, very friendly and helpful in disposition. If Gulika is in the 7th house, the native will be subdued to his spouse, will subdue to his spouse, be sinful, will go to other females, be emaciated, devoid of friendship, and will live off of his wife's wealth. If Gulika is in the 8th house, the native will be troubled by hunger, be miserable, cruel, very short-tempered, very unkind, poor and bereft of good qualities. If Gulika goes into the 9th house, the native will undergo many ordeals, be emancipated, will perform evil acts, and be very unkind, sluggish, and be a tale-bearer. And if Gulika is in the 10th house, this is another house where Gulika does well. The native will be endowed with sons, be happy, will enjoy many things, be fond of worshiping gods and fire, and will practice meditation and religion. A lot of the videos out there, they forget to mention this, and I'm not really sure why or where they're getting their information from, but I mean, it's easy enough to find. Anyhow, Gulika also does really well in the 11th house. The native will enjoy women of class, be a leader of men, be helpful to his relatives, be short in stature, and will be an emperor. And Gulika in the 12th house, the native will indulge in base deeds, be sinful, defective-limbed, unfortunate, indolent, and will join mean people. So that's what happens when Gulika goes into this house. Now, let's say that you have a planet in there also. So if the Gulika is with the sun, it's harmful to the longevity of the father. Basically, Gulika, when it comes in contact with the planet, it weakens the good results of that planet. Now, if it's in one of those houses that it does well in, I'm not sure if that will apply. But if anything, it might, lessen it a little bit. But for sure, if it's in a house and with a planet if it's in a house that it doesn't do well in, then for sure it's going to diminish or lessen that ability of the planet a lot. I mean, that's how important this this shadow is. I mean, we take Rahu and Ketu, and so this is kind of the same thing. And if Gulika is with the moon, then it's loss and comforts from mother. And if Gulika is with Mars, it means adverse family relations with co-borns and could suffer from an early death. Gulika with Mercury, the native might remain like mentally disturbed. And if Gulika is with Jupiter, a person could misuse religious feelings of others and pose himself as a religious fanatic. Gulika with Venus, the native suffer due to bad company of doubtful character women and ruins his marital life. When Gulika is with Saturn, these natives can have quite a bit of suffering, but they usually suffer from a disease or diseases. And if Gulika is with Rahu, it's the same thing. They're prone to suffer from a disease or diseases. And if Gulika is with Ketu, this will make the native fear from bad characters and criminals. And I know it doesn't seem too bad, Gulika with Ketu, but, you know, it's not fun to, you know, be scared of something, you know? I mean, none of these things are good. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is because I just want you guys to be open to something, just so you could look, because I mean, maybe you have everything going really well for you, or you have everything going well for you in terms of your birth chart, but something's not right. We'll find that house that Gulika is in and do some analyzing. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this video helped you as much as it helped me. Have a great night.